In 1949, two rival governments each claimed to be the real China, one on the mainland and one across the Taiwan Strait. This was not always the plan. Just a generation before, a single Chinese civilization fractured into chaos and war, leading to one of history's deadliest civil conflicts. How did a divided past force the world to confront the question, why are there two Chinas? On February 12, 1912, the last emperor of the Qing dynasty abdicated, ending more than 2,000 years of imperial rule. What followed was not unity, but a power vacuum. Sun Yat-sen, a doctor turned revolutionary, briefly became the face of a new republic. Yet his vision for a modern, unified China quickly collided with reality. Across the country, military strongmen, known as warlords, sliced China into rival territories, each with its own army, laws, and ambitions. Rail lines were sabotaged, cities changed hands, and ordinary people found themselves caught between shifting authorities. Foreign powers carved out their own spheres of influence, controlling key ports and concessions from Shanghai to Tianjin. In the north, Japanese interests grew bolder, while British and French enclaves stood as reminders of lost sovereignty. With no single government strong enough to restore order, the dream of a stable republic faded into years of fragmentation and conflict. Sun Yat-sen's portrait hung in public squares as a symbol of hope, but the struggle for legitimacy and for China's future remained wide open. Two rival visions soon took shape. In the cities, the Kuomintang, known as the Nationalist Party, pushed for a unified modern China under strong central rule. Chiang Kai-shek, a military officer with a reputation for discipline, took command of the Kuomintang after Sun Yat-sen's death. He drew support from urban elites, business leaders, and those who feared further chaos. Meanwhile, a new force was rising in the countryside. The Chinese Communist Party, led by Mao Zedong, argued that true revolution had to begin with the peasants. Their program promised land reform, an end to landlord power, and a government built from the villages up. At first, these two groups formed an uneasy alliance to drive out the warlords. But distrust ran deep. On April 12, 1927, in Shanghai, Kuomintang forces loyal to Chiang launched a sudden and brutal purge. Thousands of communists and suspected leftists were rounded up and killed in the streets. The massacre ended any hope of cooperation. From that moment, China's two main parties became locked in open conflict, each convinced that only one could survive. In 1934, surrounded and nearly destroyed by nationalist armies, the Chinese Communist Party made a desperate decision. Tens of thousands set out on foot, crossing mountains, rivers, and frozen grasslands in what became known as the Long March. Over the next year, they covered more than 6,000 miles, losing most of their number to hunger, disease, and battle. Those who survived reached Yan'an, a remote base in northern Shanxi. There, the communists rebuilt from scratch, forging new networks among peasants and training a corps of dedicated cadres. The hardship of the Long March became a story of endurance, shaping the party's identity and binding its leaders to their followers in the years ahead. In July 1937, Japanese forces swept into northern China, launching a full-scale invasion that would last 8 years. The civil war between nationalists and communists fell silent, as both sides declared a fragile truce and formed what became known as the Second United Front. But unity was uneasy. While nationalist armies faced the brunt of the fighting, their resources and morale were drained by relentless battles and occupation. The communists, meanwhile, expanded their rural bases behind enemy lines, building support among peasants and quietly strengthening their position. By the war's end in 1945, the nationalists were battered and overstretched, while the communists had grown into a formidable force, ready to challenge for control once again. In the winter of 1948, the fate of China hung in the balance along the muddy plains between the Huai and Hai rivers. More than 500,000 nationalist soldiers were surrounded near Suzhou, cut off from supplies and relief. The Huai-Hai campaign became a grinding siege. Trains of peasant carts hauled ammunition and food for the communist armies, while nationalist units, starved and exhausted, surrendered in waves. By January, the Nationalist Corps was destroyed, shattering any hope of regaining the mainland. Historians estimate that millions died in the Civil War, both in battle and as civilians swept up in the chaos. A survivor from that winter remembers, "We left at night, carrying only what we could. My brother never made it across." The war's human cost would haunt both sides as a new China took shape. On October 1, 1949, Mao Zedong stood atop Tiananmen Gate and declared the founding of the People's Republic of China. Red flags unfurled across Beijing as the Communist Party announced its rule over the mainland. In the months that followed, the nationalist government, battered and outnumbered, loaded ships with soldiers, officials, and civilians, and crossed the Taiwan Strait under threat of pursuit. By December, Chiang Kai-shek and his supporters had established their base on Taiwan, and they still called themselves the Republic of China. Two rival governments now claim to be the true China, one on the mainland and the other across the sea. On October 25, 1971, the United Nations voted to recognize the People's Republic of China as the only legitimate representative of China, expelling the Republic of China from its seat. Shifts in Cold War alliances and support from newly independent countries helped tip the balance, redrawing the diplomatic map overnight. Today, nearly 24 million people in Taiwan live with an uncertain future as global powers debate their fate. The question of sovereignty is not history, it is tomorrow's headline. Share your thoughts below. Oh, and I almost forgot. YouTube thinks you might like this video next, so let me know if they are right. Oh, and I almost forgot. YouTube thinks you might like this video next, so let me know if they are right.